Hello everyone and welcome to this week's video tutorial. This will be another tutorial on an unorthodox opening that I sometimes encounter during my games on the internet. So to begin with, red will play the central cannon, and black will play h2 plus 3, which is also possible, but this will usually suggest that black will continue with the sandwich house defense. However, for the next move, after red had played h2 plus 3, black would immediately develop his right chariot as a rank chariot. Now, so far this is still applicable. Red will continue with r1 equals to 2, and black will play c8 equals to 7. Now, c8 equals to 7 would allow black to target the red horse over here immediately, and this is one of the motives. However, because c8 equals to 7 was played, black cannot play h8 plus 7 now, and this will result in a weak center. So usually one of red's options would be to attack from the central file. Now this black's opening is called a central cannon. Black's rank chariot with Lian Cannon. This is called a Lian Pao in Chinese, or Lian Cannons as I've translated it simply. Now this is considered to be an orthodox counter, but again there are many tricks to it, as with the other unorthodox counters that I've discussed before in the previous videos. And red must know how to attack correctly, or he will suffer many unexpected consequences. Now this would be the position of discussion, and there are 4 major variations that were discussed: p5 plus 1, p7 plus 1, h8 plus 9, and c8 equals to 7. Now, because there are many sub-variations, after much contemplating, I decided to divide this video into 2 installments. So, okay, without further ado, the first video will cover the first 2 variations, and the next video will cover the last 2 variations. So let us see. In variation A, p5 plus 1 was played, whereby red would immediately choose to start his attack on the central file without developing his left flank. Now, what would the consequences of such an attack be? Black could immediately play e7 plus 5 to consolidate his central file. Now, this is a very steadfast counter. Another feasible solution would be to play r1 equals to 4, tempting or taunting red to push the pawn forward. And after red pushed the pawn forward, black will counter with the same direction cannons. Now it will appear that black would have lost the move by moving the cannon 2 times so early in the game, but this is compensated by the fact that now black will be able to target red's attack, and red had already used up 2 moves to push the pawn, so black will still have a very playable game. So if red wanted to keep his pawn alive, black would play p3 plus 1, h8 plus 6, and black would play r4 plus 6 to attack red's pawn rank. Both colors will be fighting for an initiative, and black would still have a very playable game. Now, of course, this flank would be in trouble, but so would but black would now be prepared to attack either one of the pawns to attack the horse. So black can be very satisfied with this outcome, and r1 equals to 4 is a feasible option. Now say e7 plus 5 to consolidate the defense, h8 plus 7 to continue his attack on the central file, r1 equals to 6, so to apply pressure on this flank, p5 plus 1, trade of pawns, and red will develop, hit both his left horse and link them at the center, so that the cannon would now capture the pawn to attack. And suddenly, black chooses to defend by playing r6 plus 2. Now this is a very good move by black because he will stubbornly he knows that this line is very important and would choose to protect it at all costs. Now this is a very frequently used method when black plays this unorthodox counter in this situation, especially when red attacks the central file. Red will deliver a check and link both cannons on the central file, continuing to apply pressure on the central file. Now black will immediately play c2 plus 5 since this cannon had moved, and this would target the red horse over here. So at this point in time, red would usually play r9 plus 2. Now it would not be a good idea to try to play to sacrifice the horse, because if he did, red would first play r6 equals 4 to prevent the horse from continuing to attack. Red would link the horses up. Black would try to gain material, but after several rounds, black's cannon would now be in deep trouble, and this red cannon would be the main attacking force in in red's attack. So by neutralizing this cannon, red's attack, or the efforts they had made thus far, would have been made in vain, and red's attack cannot be effective. So that is why h5 plus 6 would not be a good idea. Now if red tried to play h6 plus 8, this horse would be alone in black's territory, and he would be very vulnerable to counter-attacks by black. So r9 plus 2 is played for a trade, which of course black would gladly accept. And as can be seen, the red horse will still be back to its original position, while black had already raised up his defenses. And in similar situations, black would develop his left horse as a elephant eye horse. The trade on material, and after trading material, the situation has calmed down. Although red would still be attacking the central file, it would be very hard for red to profit from this situation, because black had already had his defenses up and would now slowly take the chance opportunity to attack black's right flank. So red would not have gained much in this situation. So this would be variation A. In variation B, p7 plus 1 is played to counter to prevent the black horse from developing and allow for red to develop his left horse. This will be a slightly slower paced variation. However, black will still be able to handle this situation very well. Black will usually continue with e7 plus 5. Again, very important to consolidate the central file. Black develops the left horse. Again, the cross palace, rank chariot. Now, if r1 equals to 4 was played, this would not be a good idea, because if the r1 equals 4 was played, black will counter with r2 plus 4 and be prepared to trade chariots or develop the horse, etc. There are many options. Of course, there's still the possibility of a cannon skewer, or cannon fork, sorry. But all in all, black's major attacking piece would be the chariot, which would be nullified, and black's attack would be slowed down considerably, and red's weak center, the issue of the weak center, would gradually surface. So that is why r1 equals to 6 would be a better move to allow for coordination and also concentration of material to attack red's right flank. h7 plus 6 is played, as red would go for the heavenly horse variation, threatening to capture the central pawn. Again, black ups his defenses, and in this situation, instead of capturing, because black had already defended, it would not be a good idea, so black would try to consolidate his defenses. Now, what would happen if red really went for the heavenly horse variation? after trading horses, showing the cannon away, developing the horse. And as can be seen, black can be very satisfied with his position because although the red cannon had already commanded the central file, there was nothing much that it could do because all the other red pieces had not crossed the river to attack. And in contrast, black would now have developed his chariot, his horse, and this chariot would not have to be worried about lack of development because R9 equals to 6 is always a possibility. And so far the black cannons are linked, offering a very strong defense in this situation. So black can be very satisfied, while red would have trouble trying to crack open red's defense. Now what would happen if p3 plus 1 were played, as red tries to go for the double-headed stake pawns and develop his horse, and also prevent black from playing r6 plus 4. Black would counter in this manner, forcing red to show where he would move. Now, after red would counter by threatening the black cannon in response, but black will now link his cannons up in this unusual manner. Again, protecting the pawn rank, red will consolidate his defense, threatening the black cannon. Again, both colors will develop the other flanks. And after a few rounds, the situation has calmed down considerably. Both colors will be attacking one of the third or seventh file, but this will be a very complicated situation. It will also be very complicated because anything could happen, and black can be satisfied with this situation. So that is why c5 equals 7 was given in the book in this version B. Now, red would try to apply a lot of pressure on this file with c5 equals to 7. Now, in the book, it was suggested that black could play p3 plus 1 to sacrifice the pawn. Now, this is quite an interesting attempt. Now, r6 plus 4 would not be a good idea because red will protect the horse, and before black could charge the pawn forward to gain material, red would shoo away the black chariot, forcing it to capture the pawn, and followed by e7 plus 5. By sacrificing a pawn, red would gain some momentum, forcing the chariot away, and he would push the pawn across the river for a huge advantage. Now, the issue of this pawn will become a major headache for black because if he captured with e5 plus 3, of course, red could gain material, etc. Or he could even play e6 plus 5, threatening to capture the horse and chariot and cannon at the same time. If the horse moved, it would be an immediate checkmate. So red would be e5 plus 3 would not be viable, neither would r7 plus 3b viable. This would be an even worse move because red will counter with c8 equals to 7. And black could lose the chariot immediately. If it moved away, for example, f3 equals to 4, this would be the double toast checkmate. So that is why, after playing p7 plus 1, black would be left with a big headache. So r6 plus 4 is not a good choice. Neither would r6 plus 7b, because if this were played, red would start his defense, would start to solidify his defenses with a6 plus 5, develop chariot. After trading material, as can be seen, red's material is in the open. This chariot is blocked by the advisors and cannot do much, and it will be some time before this horse is able to be developed, or either horses for the matter, to be developed and cross the river for attack. Now red will be able to profit on both the offensive and defensive ends, as he will now concentrate material attacking this flank. The chariot has yet to be unleashed, and once red does so, black will be in all sorts of trouble. So that is why r6 equals to 7 or r6 plus 4 will not be viable. And instead, p3 plus 1 is played. This would be a pseudo-sacrifice. Because after playing p7 plus 1, black could now charge his chariot to the crossfield bank rank and threaten red's horse. And it would be better for red to trade material at this point in time. h6 minus 5 is another commonly seen tactic by red, but it will lead to very complicated situations, and red will lose a little bit of tempo by advancing and reducing and retreating his horse back. Now black could play r2, c2 plus 3, p7 plus 1, and both colors will be entangled in a very sticky situation. Red has slight advantage, but black can be very satisfied. p3 plus 1 is not an option because this is a horse, not an elephant, so black could play r6 equals to 3. And c2 plus 3 or r6 equals to 3 would also be viable. But this would not be a good idea because if this were played, this is a horse, so red will simply play c7 plus 1 and be prepared to play c8 equals to 7, again threatening with a double toes checkmate as exemplified earlier. So this would be a very complicated situation. But if red were to play h6 minus 5, but in this board, red will continue with c7 plus 5 to trade material. Red would accept the trade, but instead of black would accept the trade, but instead of capturing the cannon immediately, black could link his cannons up in this manner. Now, the idea behind this move was to prevent a fork by the black chariot. Now, if say c7 plus 3 were played after trading material, there's still the threat of a fork. So h7 plus 5 is usually played. Now, if p7 plus 1, the fork would occur and red will be in all sorts of trouble. So e7 plus 5, if red tried to make this move, red could simply move the cannon to safety. Okay, after capturing the pawn, red would try to develop his chariot as an elephant chariot. Black would simply retreat his elephant for formidable defense. Trade chariots again, and after several rounds, the situation would become more and more calm, and red would usually not want such a situation to happen because he would have the first move initiative, and this would be a waste of it. So after c7, c7 minus equals to 3 to trade material is not advocated. Instead, red could play c8 equals to 7 to try to keep things complicated. But black could counter in this manner. Now this is the correct intersection to move the cannon. Now if c2 plus 5 were played to try to attack the horse, red would simply retreat his horse to the central file, and this cannon would suddenly become inefficient and not be able to do much. With c2 plus 4, there's always the possibility of c2 equals to 7 to link the cannons up. So red would try to gain material by blocking the horse, preventing from protecting the black cannon, forcing a trade of cannons. And black would try to dislodge the red chariot, forcing it away. Now, r2 minus 2 is advocated. P7 minus 1 would not be a good idea because black would play r4 minus 4 to threaten the cannon, and when the cannon moved away, he could capture let's say for example, capture the advisor to deliver a check. And black would gain advisor in the process, and black would still have a very playable game. So that is why p7 plus 1, c7 plus 1 to try to allow red to keep his pressure on this short rank is not advisable. So red will take his sweet time to develop his horse. And as can be seen in this situation, the red cannon is placed in a rather undesirable position. The horse will now be protecting the pawn, and red will have to waste or use up one more move to move the chariot to a better intersection, perhaps r2 minus 1. So black will be able to hold his own very easily, and he will still have a playable game. So this would be variation B, whereby p7 plus 1 was played. Variation C and variation D will be discussed in the next video. So a short recap, let's try to see it from black's point of view. Okay, central cannon protecting the central pawn, rank chariot, and Lian Cannon. So again, in the first variation, red attacked from the center, which would seem to be a natural thing to do. Black will fortify his defenses, and red will continue his attack from the center. But black will protect his pawn rank very aggressively, solidifying his defense. Basically, once black's defense were up, it will be very difficult for red to gain any momentum in his attack, even if he tried to continue attacking from the central file. A trade of material. As can be seen, the situation has calmed down, and black would have a very playable game. In variation B, p7, red would attack with p7 plus 1, trying to limit the development of this horse. However, as long as black countered correctly, even though red tried to attack, concentrate material on this flank, black will be able to dislodge any potential threats from the red chariot, and black will be able to still be able to hold his own very easily. Both colors, this will be a test of the mid-game skills of both players. So I hope you have enjoyed this short video, and I'll try to upload the next video as soon as possible. If you like the work that I've been doing, please do subscribe to my channel and give a thumbs up for this video. Thank you.